Hey guys, time for another episode of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. So as you can see, we got the hood and the deck lid back. And in fact, actually look at, you can see that reflection on there. Just incredible. So previously, Robert at Custom Corrections had polished the entire car, and with the exception of the deck lid and the hood, because we didn't have those back from paint at the time. So we just now, at the end of last week, had him go ahead and polish the hood and the deck lid before we put them on. Just makes more sense to at least do like an initial polish before trim and stuff like that starts going on. So anyway, he got those on towards the end of last week. We picked them up today, and then Rafa went ahead and installed them, installed the trim, V-dub symbol, hood handle, and the latch up underneath there. And then likewise, I think he finished the deck lid. Yeah, deck lid obviously mounted with a license plate light, license plate bracket. I believe it's all wired in and everything. So yeah, huge milestone today on this car as far as pretty much being done cosmetically, with the gaping exception there of the pop outs, which I'm picking up tomorrow morning. So by the time you see tomorrow evening's episode, this thing should also have freshly restored original pop outs in it. And geez, I think that's the last major thing to go on the car is those. And then other than that, it's a matter of getting some confidence miles on this thing. I think I mentioned probably have to do a more accurate alignment. We just did kind of a quick and dirty one. Some stuff like that. I did get the engine to idle nicely. So actually, what it turned out to be was a little weird. It wasn't a vacuum leak or anything like that. So the way I figured it out was by taking a bunch of other similar carburetor. So that has a 28 picked one on it like this. So here's what was going on, was a couple things. So you can see when the throttle blade closes all the way, you can see about what this distance is here between this arm and this ramp deal here. So that distance right there. So for whatever reason on that carburetor, when the throttle plate is closed all the way, in other words, you move everything so that it can close all the way, that distance was more like that, even when the thing was closed all the way. And so what that was causing was that even if you screwed in the screw all the way, it was like barely opening it any. And on these early carbs, unlike some of the later ones where you don't really set the idle by moving this thing, because there's other means of bypassing the throttle plate for the idle, on these that's literally how you make the idle speed, is by opening the throttle plate. And so that one, for whatever reason, the arm is sitting way out, and it actually had in fact, this is the original screw out of it, or the screw that came out of it, and it's a shorter one. And so combination of this arm sitting too far out and a shorter idle adjustment screw, I just couldn't get enough adjustment in there to get the thing to idle at an appropriate RPM. So I put in a longer one of these screws, which I think I robbed off this carburetor here, and you can see the one I put in looks more like this dirty one here. So you can see it's like 1/10 of an inch or so longer. So that helped. And then on top of that, I did kind of like tweak the arm a little bit on that carburetor, and between those two things I was able to get it to where I could get sufficient adjustment in that, and it idles beautifully now. So yeah, kind of weird. My first thought were vacuum leak, clogged ports, jets, whatever. None of those things. Just like kind of a weird fluke that for whatever reason I actually pulled the arm off this carburetor and put it on that one, and it sat exactly the same, so like way out there. So I don't know if on that carburetor the the throttle plate shaft is maybe twisted a little. There's something weird, but it runs beautifully, super smooth. Thing purrs like a kitten. So yeah, all's well that ends well with that. But yeah, so it runs really nice now. It's pretty much cosmetically done except for the wheels and tires. I'm hoping that the white walls will show up tomorrow. I thought they'd be here today, but they didn't show up. So yeah, literally last couple things on this thing hopefully happening over the next day or so. And I think we're pending any unforeseen, issues. This thing should be going to its owner next week. So there you go. So Jacob's car, our painter came over the weekend and painted the black on there. He had previously primered it, and then today he came by for a little while and started sanding the fresh black paint to create some patina. So he put this in, he put these areas along here in here. He's still got a little bit more blending to do with the previous paint on the car. And he's still got to dull this down a little bit, but yeah, coming right along. And then Jacob actually started fitting his new engine tin today to his motor. He was in for a little while, and believe it or not, it actually fit really well. So I don't think we're going to have to do anything, with the exception of the breastplate, which he previously had fitted the original one to the car and trimmed it so it fit, and then he's using that as a template for the new one. We're replacing that because it had heater holes in it and heat riser holes, and we're not using any of that stuff. So got a fresh, clean one, and test fitting and trimming, so on. Other than that, I've got a big pile of carburetors and fuel pumps here that Jacob's going to be restoring when there's nothing else to do. And he actually started by sandblasting one of these. And let's see, for my part, I worked on the emergency brakes on the 64 bus today. So this bus having rear disc brakes, I think I might have explained before, this brake kit is actually made for a Beetle. So the ebrake cables that it comes with are for a Beetle, which are of course completely different than bus ebrake cables. And so lots of mocking up today and kind of scratching my head to figure out the best way to go about it. So a couple issues. One is the cable itself is not long enough, because obviously buses are much longer and the e-brake lever is all the way in front, making matters worse compared to a Beetle. So there's the length of the cable itself, but then also the length of the cable housing. So this part here, these are also too short. So basically what I ended up doing was making some extensions that will slip over where the conduit that the cable actually runs through the body, that comes out kind of back by the torsion bar. I made these little extenders that will kind of slip onto those, and then in turn these will go onto the ends of the e-brake cables like that and extend that extra couple inches or so. So that takes care of the length of the housing itself. And then the actual cables, I'm going to take it to a place called, I think it's BC Wired Rope here locally. I think they're in Fullerton, and have them make me new cables. So I've got a drawing here that I made explaining the length that the new cables need to be. And then I got these new little ends that have the correct thread on them. So that's these cables. And then these cables are going to be shortened for the buggy, and buggies are buggies are shortened 14¼ inches. So these ones are easy. I'm basically just going to have them put on the new ends and shorten the cables 14¼ inches. So I'll probably be bringing both of these over to BC Wire Rope tomorrow and getting these two sets of custom e-brake cables made. So yeah, that was kind of a pain, but there's the handle. I installed it, put tape all over it so it didn't get scratched, feeding it up through the floor there. I had to install that so I could mock up the cables and see how long they needed to be to actually work on here. So that and fixing the idle issue on the Beetle there. Those were pretty much my day. So anyway, that's it for today, guys. Appreciate you all watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.